Susan, let me start with you on this one and just talking about how September will look, right? This looming possible impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden, along with getting this budget through. And by the way, the House only in session for 11 days of September.
So it's going to be a mess. And it's not at all clear that we're going to be able to avoid a government shutdown. In fact, it is easier to see how the government shuts down than it is to see how the government stays open. It is hard to see how Kevin McCarthy, the Speaker, manages to both get funding through the House, even in a short-term measure, and keep his job. So that's what we're watching for this month.
Sam, I want to talk about some of the polling that we've been seeing, specifically out of the Wall Street Journal, when we're looking at possibly a head-to-head matchup, right, of what's looking more and more like former President Donald Trump and President Biden, really neck and neck out of this Wall Street Journal poll. And I believe former President Trump is polling 46 points ahead of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, right? One of the two biggest concerns out of this poll when it comes to President Biden are the economy and his age. And the president really, over the last couple of days, since Friday, when those jobs numbers came out, really going after, as he says, his predecessor, the guy before me, now more than ever, and addressing the concerns over his age. Let's listen into what he had to say.
It wasn't that long ago we were losing jobs in this country. In fact, the guy who held this job before me was just one of two presidents in history, left office with fewer jobs in America than when he got elected office. And the last guy was here, he looked at the world from Park Avenue. I look at it from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I look at it from Claymont, Delaware. The great real estate builder, the last guy here, he didn't build a damn thing.
What do you make of the pivot, Sam, and will it work? Will it resonate?
Well, the pivot's really notable because for a while they have not really been going after Trump, at least frontally like this. But clearly they see the polls that everyone else does. It's very likely that Trump will end up being the Republican nominee. Why beat around the bush at this juncture? Also, he makes for a very effective villain for Democrats. And so this is why they're doing it. The second part of your question is a little trickier, right? Like, is it going to be effective? If you talk to people in the White House a couple months ago, they would have said to you, look, the economy is moving in the right direction. Inflation is easing. Jobs numbers are great. Historic lows for black unemployment. GDP growth projected to be great. People will start to feel it, and people will start to, you'll see that sentiment reflected in these surveys. That has not happened. It just hasn't happened. And, maybe it will down the road as, grocery prices ease a little bit more, fuel goes down and a little bit if that does happen. But if you're in the White House, that's a little bit of a panicky situation, right? It's like you have these good macroeconomic measures, but it's not really translating into voter sentiment. Now, on the age thing, that's even harder, right? I mean, on the economy, you can at least say, like, look, the statistics show it's a better economy. We can go out and sell it. Biden's only going to get older. He's not. He didn't discover some fountain of youth. He's not going to get younger. He can't like tell voters, look at me, I'm Benjamin Button as a presidential candidate. So that one's a little bit tricky. And the thing they're going to have to do is they're going to have to put him in situations like they did over the weekend, where he's out there, he's stumping, he's traveling more, he seems more vibrant, more energetic, and so that's partially why I think you saw the speech like you did over the weekend.
By the way, if he were to discover that, I think we would all love to know about it, myself included. That would be fantastic. Talk about the gamble, though, here, Tim, because you think about the indictments. You think about the charges that are facing the former president. And we understand and we get why the White House, why the president hasn't really weighed in on that yet, not wanting to kind of further politicize a situation like that. We already know Donald Trump is saying, right, it's Joe Biden's Department of Justice who is coming after me, who is trying to insert themselves into this election. All that being said, though, I mean, just hearing now, John Eastman, right, filing a motion to sever his case in Georgia. This is going to be in the news cycle repeatedly over the next 18 months, all the way through November. There will come a point in which President Biden needs to talk about on the campaign trail who he is facing, a man who has been indicted 4 times with 90 plus criminal charges under his belt.
Yeah, and I think he will. We're 5 months away, 4 or 5 months away from the first even Republican caucus or primary vote. So he's got time to engage in that. I do think that Biden's been a little bit stuck between a rock and a hard place, on the matter of how to deal with Trump's indictments, because he's done everything by the book. He's really, frankly, gone above and beyond to not, put his thumb on the scale, to not engage. He gave everything to Merrick Garland, who then gave everything to a special counsel. I think there are a lot of people, myself included, who thought maybe the Biden administration could have even worked more quickly on dealing with the legal side of things in the aftermath of January 6th. So he's depoliticized everything, and yet still he has Republicans who know better, and then Republicans who don't know better, MAGA Republicans, accusing him of, being the man behind the curtain orchestrating all these indictments, which is preposterous. So, I think Biden's struggling to kind of deal with how much to be upfront about this. If he's not going to get any credit for doing things by the book, then eventually you're going to reach a point where he's going to at least have to make the argument more explicitly, and I expect that he'll do that.